Yes. Hello, my beautiful friends. What an amazing day it is, and welcome back. I hope your week is off to an incredible start and you're accomplishing all the things you've set your mind to. We are jam packed today. Trump's team is appealing all over the place. Trump also just wrapped up a conversation with Elon Musk and was defending his administration's actions along with Elon. And they're saying that these judges can do what they want to do. They're going to comply. And we've got a thesis on this. It is aggressive compliance, I think, to bait them into doing exactly what they're doing. Let me give you a preview on what's coming up since there is so much here to attend to. Then we'll zoom in on the finer details. You may have seen or heard about this order that is percolating. This is a judge now saying that Trump has to change back the website, right? Put all this website stuff back up that they just took down. And this is the point. They're getting into the granular detail. Yesterday, we were mocking, or maybe earlier in the week, mocking what they were doing, saying, what are they going to do? Make Trump go to bed at 9 o'clock at night and get up at 6 a.m. and do this or whatever? He's up later than that and gets up earlier anyways, but you get the picture. Are they going to make sure that he, mandates that he brushes his teeth before bedtime? That kind of crap. Basically, yeah, they're now trying to say that a website has to go back up. And this is the micromanagement that we were wondering if they were going to be baited into yesterday. And they are, man. They're falling for it, hook, line, and sinker. So we'll talk about that. It's in this doctor's case. We'll also talk about this special counsel situation because Trump fired this guy. And then the judge, Amy Berman Jackson, who we know from a prior case involving Judicial Watch and the Clinton sock drawer. Anyways, she came out and said, you got to rehire this guy back up. Now, Trump's DOJ is not playing around. They are appealing this stuff. You can see here is the cover sheet. And then this is the actual appeal along with the stay. So they're asking for a stay of the rehiring order while the appeal is pending. So Trump and the DOJ dropped this one out. It's 31 pages of delicious goodness that we'll go through. Then I've got reaction. We got Caroline Leavitt out. We've got Senator Kennedy out here before we turn our attention into what's happening in the First Circuit Court of Appeals on that Rhode Island case from that other judge that we talked about yesterday. So another appeal. This one's a little bit shorter, but this one's involving the OMB and the cutting off of the funds and more. So we'll talk about that. We've got Chris Murphy, who is just going bananas out there, man. He's like on a media onslaught. And then we'll got some other reaction and other articles about USAID and how this might be the end, a political ending of the Democrats. They're ending themselves. And I think this is an astute observation by this guy, who I don't think is a conservative, Rai Teixeira, who's going to explain what that is all about. Want to shout out this guy, Charles Downs, in the house, who was watching these government workers. Apparently, this is all they're doing now is just walking around in downtown DC, just complaining. And so we'll talk about that. We also have a Treasury filing. Trump and his people responded to the state. Remember, a bunch of states are suing the Trump administration to stop things. And so Trump is now responding on that. And then we've got some murmurings of impeachment. Impeach these judges is one thesis that Eli Crane, a representative who is a Republican, is now bringing up. And so we'll, of course, talk about that concept, refresh our recollection on what it takes to actually remove a judge, where it is in the judicial context for good behavior is their term, whereas in other arenas, like in the executive branch, it's for high crimes and misdemeanors. So we'll talk about that. We also have an exclusive on some of these judges from Laura Loomer and plenty more that we're going to get to. And we're excited about all of that. And so Trump and Elon just wrapped up, and they're going to have another ceremony that happens back tonight because there is an American returning home. Of course, that's very good news. And we've got other good news, confirmation good news. And as we're going through this, we got to remember, we got to get healthy. And one way to do that is by getting RFK Jr. confirmed. We know that the Democrats spent a lot of time trying to force mandates, dictate how we manage our health. Now they're pushing back to try to take control of everything. Well, Americans' confidence in healthcare has hit a 24-year low. Yeah, we've got Trump in, we got RFK coming in on his heels, but we can't wait for these solutions to come down the pike. We have to take control of our health now. That's why I love Field of Greens. And we all know that eating healthy is a key to, staying healthy, but life gets busy and sticking to the perfect diet isn't always realistic. And that's why Field of Greens is amazing. It's whole fruits and vegetables. That's it. We could all use a little bit more of that in our diets. But one drink, you've got a healthy start to your day. A lot of people talk about how amazing it is. More energy, better gut health, feeling healthier, and it's a nice routine in the mornings. Now, every fruit and vegetable in Field of Greens is doctor selected for specific health benefits, heart health, lungs, kidney, various metabolism groups, even a healthy weight group. And Field of Greens promises that at your next checkup, your doctor is going to notice your improved health or just get your money back from Field of Greens. But we've got you a 20% discount to get you started. Go to fieldofgreens.com, link down in the description. Use code Robert at fieldofgreens.com and get your fruits and vegetables. And remember, the vegetables want to be eaten. They're waiting for you to eat them. So go over there, Field of Greens, use our promo code and enjoy. Now, let's get into the news on the day because we got some serious business to attend to. President Trump is striking back, appealing these judges' orders. We've got several that we're going to go through and analyze here today, but this is what the civil docket sheet looks like for the appeal that's working its way up as it relates to the special counsel. Remember, one big firing that occurred when Trump came in was the firing of Hampton Dellinger, Office of the Special Counsel. He sued. He said, "You can't fire me. Who do you think you are, the president?" And the judge said, "Yeah, you can't fire him." Amy Berman Jackson brought this case back up and said, "You have to rehire him." So Trump then is now appealing this in the Court of Appeals for the DC Circuit, where a lot of this garbage is emanating from. And he's going to be saying, "Judge, we're appealing this, and please, the Court of Appeals, stay the lower order saying that I have to hire this guy back," right? So lots going on here, and we're going to come back to that. But what I want to show you is another order that came down today, also out of the District of Columbia. And this order, I think, is instructive for just how far the Democrats are pushing this and just how activist these judges are becoming, because it's going to be a model for all of the other cases and orders and injunction battles that we see here. And it is the overbroad orders from the courts, meaning the judiciary is extending its grubby, disgusting fingers into the executive branch to micromanage what we're doing, what the executive branch is doing. And that is a separation of powers problem. And as we're sitting here, it feels a little bit strange, right? We're used to so much winning and winning and winning, and it kind of feels like there might be a little losing going on. What? Rob, no. Well, we're not losing. I think what is happening here is orchestrated and it's been planned. So what they're doing is they're actively complying with all of these requests. These judges are like, those videos we see when the stores to the Walmarts break open on Black Friday or whatever, and everybody comes running out with big screen TVs. They're like, "What? Did you guys pay for those? What? Where are they getting all these TVs from?" And they're wondering where all the TVs are coming from. That's what these DC judges are doing. They're all back in their little corridors, palling around with themselves like, "Oh, what case did you get? Oh, what case did you get assigned? Oh, perfect." And they're exercising individually these little intrusions on the executive branch. And Trump's team is now sitting back and just saying, okay, I guess we'll comply. Oh, I guess we're injunctioned. We're stopped. We can't do this. I guess we can't run the Treasury Department like we saw yesterday. I guess we can't communicate with the Federal Reserve since they're not employees of the Treasury. I guess we're done with those people, right? It's sort of like overactive compliance, ruthless compliance, Judge. You want us to comply? You got it. We'll comply to every nook and cranny. And then what's going to happen is we're going to aggregate these all up. All of these orders are going to stack upon themselves. And you're going to see this. You're going to see headlines all over like 50 lawsuits, 50 federal judges. That same crap we saw in 2020 where they said no court of law, blah, blah. 50 federal judges. You can already hear it from Jake Tapper. That's all he can say. Federal judge, federal judge, federal judge. And they're shredding their credibility in real time. But we're aggregating all of those up. And when you compound that and bundle those together, that becomes such an intrusion on the executive branch that the Supreme Court cannot just stand by and allow that to happen. So when the hammer does come down, when this is resolved, it is going to be epic and it is going to be beautiful because the Supreme Court can't agree with this stuff. And here's what I mean. And that was a long intro to explain this very short order, but this is what I'm talking about. It's a very short order. This is some group called Doctors for America that sued the Office of Personnel Management. These doctors like, well, we needed a website on there because we needed to look at it. So they say upon consideration of the motion, this goes right to the judge, filed, judge comes back out. They say it is now granted. These doctors beat with one motion the Office of Personnel Management, right? It's like, what? Here's what the judge says. Department of Health and Human Services and the CDC and the FDA shall, by the end of business today, okay, this is the judge, restore their versions of the January 30th web page and data set. Put your websites back on the internet. And Trump and the administration shall identify other resources that they rely on to provide medical care, saying they took their websites down. The doctor's like, no, we need those websites up. We go there and we have to pull our information from whatever. Say they didn't get notice or explanation, and they shall restore those resources to their versions as of January 30th. Now, I don't know what these pages were, and I don't know if they're like basic status quo stuff you get off Wikipedia or off something else, or if it's like, trans stuff or whatever. They're like, no, it's done. It's off the website. And the trans doctors are like, we need that. This is our instruction manual for whatever. And put it back up. So the parties, and I don't know what it is, right? It could be any one or maybe none of those. But the parties shall, not by later than February 13th, submit a joint status report so ordered by the judge. No rationale, no other explanation. It's a 2-page order, and that's what we got. So this judge is now in charge of the IT department for HHS, the judiciary is. Now, we add all of these up, right? This is obviously insane. Okay, if they want to delete a website, take it off the website, they can take it off the website. So it's micromanaging by the judiciary. And when we talk about these very complex cases like OMB and Treasury and inferior officers versus employees and civil servants, whatever that is, and versus all these, it's very confusing and it can be discombobulating. But this is it. This is what they're doing on every one of these cases. It's the judiciary coming in and saying, Trump, you have to be in bed by 8 o'clock. And don't forget to say your prayers or else you're going to be grounded. Okay, that's what they're doing. And that is not how this government is structured in our country under the Constitution. They're separate and co-equal branches of government. They don't get to run the executive branch. And this is offensive to the structure of the Constitution. It's offensive to me. I know it's offensive to you sitting here, watch them try to undo what we did by overwhelming margins in 2024 in the election. But this is just bait. They're just allowing them to go hog wild. This judge is running out with like 3 TVs right now. Like 3 TVs. Judge, that's a little excessive, even for theft from the federal government, but he's doing it anyways. All right, so now with that in mind, let's take a look at what's happening in the actual battle over this special counsel. So special counsel, so-called Hampton Dellinger, was fired by President Trump. And then he sued. He says, you can't fire me. Who do you think you are? Like the president of the country? He sued the Treasury Department, Scott Bessent, saying, you have to hire me back. Trump's people have now filed an appeal. This is the cover sheet, or the printout of the docket, rather. And this is the emergency motion for a stay of the lower order pending the appeal. This is in the District Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit. And you can see it's an emergency motion for a stay. In other words, don't make us hire this guy back, Court of Appeals, because Amy Berman Jackson is crazy. Here they write, all right, listen, we know who the people are in this case. Plaintiff is Hampton Dellinger. The defendants are the entire federal government that Hampton sued over. The ruling under review is now coming up, and here is the memo. They say, all right, listen, Court of Appeals in D.C., this appeal arises from an administrative stay entered by the lower court, Amy, ordering the immediate reinstatement of a principal officer of the United States whom the president has lawfully relieved of duties, aka fired. Now, given the grave harm to the separation of powers, the district court's order works The government seeks a stay of the order pending disposition of this appeal, so don't impose it now. Now, the Supreme Court has made clear, twice and recently actually, that Article 2 precludes Congress, and Article 2 governs the executive branch, right? Article 1 is the legislature, 2 is the executive, 3 is the courts. So the Supreme Court has weighed in and said the Constitution stops Congress from limiting the president's authority to remove principal officers of the United States who serve as sole heads of an executive agency, citing two cases, Collins versus Yellen and Selah Law versus the CFBP. Same thing, right? And Selah Law, it tells us, in Selah Law, the court invalidated the restrictions on removing the head of the CFBP. And this is what Pocahontas has been screeching about over the last 3 days. We talked about that this morning on our members only stream, and she sounded nuts. And she assaulted Nick Sorter violently. Now, and in Collins, in that case, the court explained that Selah Law was all but dispositive. In other words, they tried to stop the firing of the CFPB, except for like good cause. You can only fire this person for good cause or whatever. Like, what? We're the president. You don't get to dictate how we fire somebody. The president is the root. You don't get to usurp his powers and put somebody over him and shackle him. So consistent with those holdings, Biden exercised his constitutional authority to remove the commissioner of Social Security in 2021. He did that. The courts of appeals, the only courts of appeals to have addressed this, have sustained it, by the way. And so in this case, the president exercised the exact same authority in Selah and in Collins, and he's doing the exact same thing as President Biden did. And he removed Hampton Dellinger as the head of the OSC, which is an executive agency branch. It has a single head, just like CFPB, just like FHFA, just like Social Security. So he is fired. This should not have been a constitutionally controversial act. Judge, Dellinger's removal was consistent with a long-standing executive branch view dating back to the creation of the OSC during the Carter administration, that removal protections for special counsel are constitutionally dubious, all right? The Supreme Court, because there is no special counsel branch, right, in the government, in the Constitution. The Supreme Court recently noted the lack of historical precedent for their removal protections, describing the OSC as a novelty. They say they created that nearly 200 years after the Constitution because they hate the Constitution. They're like, let's improve it, idiots. Even though no other enduring single leader office has been established during that time, and noted that it drew a contemporaneous constitutional objection from the OLC even under Carter. And in the Collins case, when the government argued to the Supreme Court that the director must be removable under Selah, it noted that the same would be true of the special counsel. But in this district court, okay, Amy Berman Jackson in the DC circuit, just hours after Dellinger brought this suit, right? In other words, they're saying, look how obvious this is. Even a moron judge could figure this out. Says, just hours after Dellinger brought this suit to challenge his removal, and before the government had even the opportunity to respond to his motion for a TRO, issued what it characterized as, quote, an administrative stay, just pulled it out of her booty, restoring Dellinger to the office. No, you're hired again. I decided. Enjoining any efforts to stop him from accessing the resources or materials of that office, right? And this is like wild. This reminds me, I could see this as the plot line for like 24 with Jack Bauer or something. Like the judge issues a temporary order. This guy gets access to his records again. He downloads all the secret files that the Chinese sent to him that the Bidens pilfered through the Hunter Biden, laptop or whatever. And then his access gets cut off, right? And the judge is like, whatever's happening. It's gonna be like a really interesting scene. So give him access right away. They turn his email on. Maybe he's shredding files. He's deleting everything. He's torching stuff, right? That's the other idea. He's just shredding everything, saying, and he gets 12 hours to do it. Anyways, notwithstanding the district court's attempt to frame it as a modest thing, this order is extraordinary. It's unprecedented. It is an intrusion into the president's authority to exercise all of the executive power of the United States under Selah law. Now, the government is unaware of any other occasion in American history where a federal court has purported to reinstall a principal officer of the United States after the president has removed him. let alone to do so without finding that he was likely to prevail on the merits of his claim, as the district court did here. Like, you're wrong on the law, and you just shoved him back in there for whatever reason so he could delete his email. Indeed, even if the reinstatement were a permissible remedy for an unlawful removal, the district court gravely erred in ordering that remedy on an interim basis, given the absence of any irreparable harm to Dellinger, all right? On the one hand, and the potential disruption and damage to the executive branch functions resulting from a judicially compelled reinstatement of a principal office of the United States over the objection of the president. Okay, that the entire country elected. This judge was appointed by another president and confirmed by the Senate. Great. Trump was elected by the entire country, and this Treasury, Scott Bessent, was also nominated and confirmed by the Senate. So we've got two branches of government and the back of the American people. And this judge has decided, F you, I don't care. Take him back. This is not merely an abstract interference with our prerogatives, but it involves compelling the government to provide access, oh, they got it, to investigative files, right? There's a reason why this president fired him. Maybe the president knows something this judge doesn't know. Maybe the president has a national security concern after he got into office and saw all of it. And this judge turns his emails back on so he can download the nuclear bomb CAD files while impeding the right to acting special counsel from faithfully executing the laws, right? And she usurped his power. This is maybe a co-conspiracy to get him access to his emails. What did he do? We should see what that is. I hope the DOJ is looking into that. What did this guy do? When he logged in to got on his Outlook, he's like, oh, perfect. He goes back to this folder. He looks up, search, John Podesta, delete. John Brennan, delete. Mark Milley, delete. All right, good. All right, yeah, now I'm good, Judge. The court should stay the district court's order and should grant an immediate stay, talking to the Court of Appeals, pending consideration of this motion. Now, if in the alternative, to the extent this court harbors doubt about its jurisdiction, it should treat this motion as a petition for a writ of mandamus and grant this now. So they're like, look, we're appealing an administrative stay. They might say we can't appeal an administrative stay. That's fine. Then take this as a writ of mandamus. I don't care. Just take it. You have the right. Here's your jurisdiction. Pick one of the two. So here's the background. They say Congress created the Office of the Special Counsel back in 1978. The act authorized the special counsel to receive and investigate any allegation of a prohibited personnel practice and to request corrective action. Now, from the beginning, the executive branch objected to the constitutionality of the removal restriction, saying, according to Congress, right, it says the act provided that special counsel could be removed by the president only for inefficiency, neglect of duty, or malfeasance in office. And that was rejected when it came to the SELA case, as I'm sure they'll explain. Now, in a published opinion, the Carter administration, OLC, said because the special counsel would be performing largely executive functions, Congress can't restrict the powers president to remove him. He doesn't get to be his own branch of government. And when Congress passed an initial version of this that separated OSC out, Reagan vetoed that, saying, nope, it's unconstitutional. You can't do it. Congress ultimately passed a revised version of the Whistleblower Protection Act that separated the OSC from the board, removed certain additional powers as well. Bush signed that bill, but the executive branch did not recede from its objection. They've been objecting to this the entire time. Even Bush objected. OLC advised Clinton even that the Social Security Administration's new structure as an agency led by a single person was extraordinary, and there's other constitutional questions there about Social Security if you can't remove the person. Now, today, the OSC exercises the same powers as it did before. It's vested with an array of executive powers. Their responsibility includes all sorts of stuff. And so that's where we're at. Now, this case was brought about by Hampton Dellinger, was appointed by Biden, and was confirmed by the Senate to serve as special counsel beginning March 2024. On February 7th, Director of the White House personnel informed Dellinger, you're fired. Get out effective immediately. Then yesterday, they say, Dellinger brought this suit to challenge his removal, moved for a TRO. Upon receiving the motion, the court set a basically immediate hearing. Okay, let's hear. Before the government had even responded. Several hours later, the court entered what it described as a, quote, a brief administrative stay to preserve the status quo. So this guy could access his emails, and I hope they tracked every single mouse movement and every single keystroke. The court's order restored Dellinger to the OSC and said, give him access to his files. The government filed a notice of appeal immediately and a motion to stay the district court's order. The district court has not ruled on the motion, and if so, we'll let you know, Court of Appeals. Now, Your Honor, we're going to win on this, okay? The OSC is an executive branch agency. As described above, from the time it was created, all the administrations had doubts as to whether Congress can stop a president from controlling his branch. Over the past 5 years, the Supreme Court has definitively resolved that question in the negative. Officials vested with sole responsibility for overseeing the exercise of executive powers must be directly answerable to the president. Now, and I know what they're going to say already. They're going to say that there is an exception for special counsels. That will be the response. But Article 2 of the Constitution provides that the executive power is vested in a president that must take care, capital C, care. It doesn't mean you just take care and do whatever the Congress wants you to do. You got to actually have some execution and discretion in the execution of the law. And you have to do it for the care of the country. Sending money to foreign countries with no clear connection to American interests is not taking care of the nation. To discharge those responsibilities, the president, as a general matter, has the authority to remove those who assist him. Without this power, the president could not be held fully accountable. The buck would stop with someone else. The Constitution says that, right? The Article 2 vests it in a sole president, not a president plus a special counsel. The Supreme Court has recognized only two exceptions. First, in the Humphreys case, the court held that Congress could give for-cause removal protections to a multi-member body of experts. This was a 1935 case, balanced along partisan lines, that performed legislative and judicial functions and was said not to exercise any executive power. It's like, okay, so they just made that up. The courts did. So if it's like a broad group of people, you can't fire people for cause. That's, I would say, unconstitutional too. But second, the court has held, that was a 1935 case. We'll see if that gets overturned. And then second, the court has held that Congress could provide tenure protections to certain inferior officers with narrowly defined duties, okay, if it's a lower level office. But the special counsel does not fit within either of these exceptions. He is not an inferior officer with narrowly defined duties. He's a principal officer appointed by the president with Senate confirmation. He oversees his own department and is not subservient to any other principal officer, anyone else, nor does the special counsel work as a multi-member expert agency. 5 years ago, the Supreme Court surveyed the executive branch and identified only 4 then existing examples of single-member agencies who were afforded protection against at-will removal. As described below, the Supreme Court has now itself invalidated the removal protection for 2 of those agencies, right? The CFPB and the FHFA. So this one also should go. The Office of Legal Counsel and 2 courts of appeals have concluded that the removal protections for a third are likewise invalid for the Social Security. So now special counsel is the 4th. Get ready, it's coming. Here's why. In SELA law, a prior case, the Supreme Court invalidated the removal restrictions of the director of the CFPB. This is Elizabeth Warren's little scam organization that was harassing everybody for the last several years. And Congress, they passed it and said, you cannot remove her, or the leader of that organization. This case addressed that, says, yes, you can. The single director structure, they wrote, contravenes the Constitution. It's a carefully calibrated system of vesting significant governmental power in the hands of a single individual accountable to no one. If you were to do it that way, it contravenes that. When the founders chose to vest executive authority in a single person, that's the president, the court explained they ensured that the president would be the most democratic and politically accountable official in the government elected by the entire nation. Thus, while executive officers assist the president, they remain subject to the president. The director could originally unilaterally, without meaningful supervision, do a bunch of stuff. And the president, under the rules that Congress passed, right? Congress tried to constrain the president, said that you could only remove that person for inefficiency, neglect of duty, or malfeasance. Otherwise, they're yours for life. Eat it. Court said that is unconstitutional. The Supreme Court said that. It's not an old case, the Sela law case. It's relatively new. Concluding, principal officers who are acting alone wield significant power. They're removable at will by the president. And this lower court judge knows that. The Supreme Court applied the same logic when it invalidated the for-cause removal of FHSA. They said, yeah, it's the same concept. So in the wake of these, Biden then kicked out the Social Security person without cause, contrary to the statutory limitations on that person. And the Department of Justice explained it. They said, hey, we're just following Supreme Court law. It said that the president doesn't need to heed any tenure protection, doesn't need to follow those limitations that the government, the Congress sets on the executive. The only courts of appeals to have considered these, the 9th and the 11th, have both concluded that the restrictions that limit the removal of someone are unconstitutional. And so guess what? Office of Special Counsel is indistinguishable from those other cases. There's no doubt that this person exercises executive authority. They can investigate anyone, bring actions, they can intervene, they can appoint, they can prescribe, they can do amicus, they can do core. All of these are core executive functions, and they're doing it. The exercise of those duties implicates the faithful execution of federal law, and that's what we're doing now. Now, if that were not enough to give Trump the authority to fire this dude like it ain't nothing, shouldn't even have to think about it, Dellinger is deeply mistaken in seeking judicial reinstatement. When principal officers have been removed, they have challenged removal in suits for back pay and many other things. But the president, judge, cannot be compelled to retain the services of an officer whom he believes is no longer to be entrusted with the operation of the executive power. Such a remedy would undermine the Supreme Court law and the entire functions of the executive branch. So, Court of Appeals, we request a stay on this. As discussed above, this is going to cause serious harm to the president, and it's in violation of the Supreme Court. Because of that order, a person the president has chosen to remove is exercising executive power over the president's objection by shoving him back in there. And Dellinger is not going to have any harm because the government, they say loss of income or reputation is not some extraordinary circumstance. If he says there's irreparable harm, he can go get another job. His reputation, he's not entitled to work for the government forever. Go get a different job. And by the way, this is harming the acting special counsel who already came in to clean up this dude's mess. And by the way, you have jurisdiction over this. You know you do. Federal rules of procedure say all the following. And so hear this case on this, although, TROs are not regularly appealable. They say are not ordinarily they're appealable when they're more akin to a preliminary injunctive relief. That's what they're asking for. So we're framing this as a different filing. Signed off here by Daniel Winnick. Very nice filing. I think did an excellent job explaining for us the Sela case and how Biden used this power himself. Trump got rid of this person under the same basis and in the same vein. And so let's see what the latest is here. The Court of Appeals has issued a response, and here is the order. As we can see, fresh out of the oven, just like we like it. Smells good. It says, filed February 11th. The case is Hampton, the special counsel who got fired. They're telling us, upon consideration, it is ordered that the appellee file a response to the emergency motion by 9 a.m. on February tomorrow. Any reply is due by noon tomorrow. Awesome. All right. So the Court of Appeals is considering it. They're hearing it. And they're probably like, yeah, there's a lot of case law that goes in Trump's favor. So you can see what is happening, right? You can see how this is getting more and more ridiculous by the day. It's like the judge came out with one TV on the first day. Then like he told his friends, man, you can just go in there and just take TVs. Like no one cares. Like actually it's illegal, but whatever. Everybody's running out with TVs now. So the judge just granted this dude, and it is strange, right? How she just, give him his access back like immediately. I was just joking about that 24 scenario, but maybe there's something to that. But anyways, and he's not Jack Bauer. He's the bad guy. So this is what is happening in that case. We have Caroline Leavitt, who was out. hitting the media. Elon, by the way, who is now henceforth known as Harry Balls, I think it's Swedish or something, said a repost of this one from Caroline Levitt.
President Trump and Elon Musk and our entire administration are going to continue to go line by line and treat this federal government like a business. Money in, money out. And what do we actually need to spend money on to advance America's interests? That is our goal here. That's all that's happening. Anything else is fear-mongering by the left because they don't have a real message and they're deranged. There's no other way to put it.
They are deranged. It's hard to make sense of it. You have judges who are just openly violating Supreme Court law, issuing emergency orders and giving people access back to the systems of which they were fired from. It's a sad situation. But Harry Balls is also sharing this one with us. I won't say that every time, I swear. This is Senator Kennedy from Louisiana explaining what is actually happening here.
I'm unapologetically with Trump and Musk. Now, among the blue hairs and the opinion writers in Washington, we're losing. We're winning with the American people. And I think, Bill and Dana, the big picture should not go unnoticed. Some people, mostly my Democratic colleagues, have chosen to support the bureaucracy and the spending porn over the American taxpayer. These are the same folks who chose to support illegal immigration over the rule of law, who chose to support teachers' unions over schools and kids, who chose to support criminals over crime victims, who chose to support transgender athletes over women's sports, frankly, who chose to support Hamas over Israel. Now, they think they're winning, and they may be in the bubble of Washington, but not among the taxpayers. When they tell me, well, we think we're winning, I tell them, sure, and be on the lookout for flying pigs. I think the justice stick is coming, and I think the American people support everything we're doing.
Absolutely right. And actually, I have an article coming up that shows that other people are saying the Democrats might, in fact, be ending themselves, essentially. In fact, here it is. Defending USAID, defending Trump's, fighting Trump's orders to keep the government grift going is not going to be good for Democrats. Political ending for Democrats. This was a short article by Rai Teixeira that I thought was a good one. Says, look, if you want evidence that Democrats have learned nothing from what they're doing here, just watch that video. It's a protest outside the Capitol where people are screaming about Elon. Hey, hey, ho, ho, all the things. We've seen them. It is traumatizing to look at what they are doing. But in policy terms, the Democrats have a point. They say Doge and blah, blah, blah. But look, politically, none of that matters a whit. Trump occupies the high ground in this fight, right? Which is probably why he and Musk picked it. If voters dislike anything, it's bureaucracy and foreign aid. And USAID is a 10,000 employee bureaucracy, many of it scattered around the world, housed in a palatial building on prime downtown real estate. It spends $40 billion a year on other countries. Rahm Emanuel, remember him, told Politico, you don't have to fight every fight. You don't have to swing at every pitch, as the former mayor said. In my view, he said, while I care about USAID, that's not the hill I'm going to die on. Skepticism about foreign aid is one of the most consistent and durable findings of public opinion research. 69% of the U.S. respondents said the government is spending too much, and it's just amazing. Now, meanwhile, the Democrats are out there. They love this stuff. They want the judiciary to gum up the works, and we're not going to let them do it. All right, now let's carry on. We've got a whole nother appeal which is happening. Trump appeals the states. Remember, a bunch of Team Blue states submitted a lawsuit against Trump saying you can't rescind funds or you can't cancel these grants or you can't do whatever it is you're doing. They sued. Trump is now appealing this, and he filed this for an emergency, asking for an immediate administrative stay. Remember, this one's coming out of the District of Rhode Island. And this judge was prohibiting Trump from doing a bunch of things. They'll recap it for us. As you can see, they tell us from the Trump DOJ, Your Honor, in the First Circuit of the Court of Appeals says This appeal arises from an extraordinary and unprecedented assertion of power by a single district court judge to superintend and control the spending of federal funds. It's in clear violation of the separation of powers. Now, to put a halt to this intolerable judicial overreach, this court should stay the orders under review pending a disposition of this appeal here, and should enter an immediate administrative stay of the orders until the motion for a stay is resolved. And we respectfully request a stay by today. And we further request another stay pending appeal by Friday, an administrative stay and then a more permanent stay later. Now, earlier today, the district court issued a sweeping order against the Trump administration that bars both the president and much of the federal government from exercising their own lawful authorities to withhold funding without prior approval of the court. The court is running the government. The court appeared to acknowledge that its order prohibited federal agencies from taking entirely lawful actions, such as delaying the issuance of funding that might be tainted by fraud, or declining to issue funds that are entirely discretionary. But to engage in any of those lawful activities or a host of others across the multitude of programs, the government must now go to the district court for pre-clearance. The judge is in charge. It's ruthless compliance. It's such strong compliance, right? The Trump administration is saying the judge is forcing us to do these things, that it's going to box the Supreme Court in. They're going to have no choice but to say, you guys have to cut this out. You're not allowed to steal TVs out of the store. To make matters worse, this broad incursion on the orderly operation of the government and the president's constitutional authority to control this branch was premised on a lawsuit that ostensibly challenges a single memo from the OMB, which has already been rescinded. The basis of the claim doesn't exist anymore, but now the entire government is under the control of the judge based on a fiction. That memorandum is not the basis of any funding decisions that the district court now seeks to control. Moreover, the court's remedy was by no means limited to that non-problem, and instead, right, we talked about this yesterday, was overbroad, was far beyond the plaintiffs to this case. It covered a bunch of people who aren't even a part of this lawsuit, far beyond any agency action that is plausibly even before the court, and further, still beyond the permissible bounds of any order that could plausibly be characterized as a proper temporary restraining order, as opposed to a preliminary injunction. Now, an immediate administrative stay, followed by a full stay, is necessary to preserve our executive branch ability to carry out the day-to-day operations of the government. Now, this case began as a challenge to the memo that instructed federal agencies to implement Trump's priorities. He issued an executive order they were supposed to follow. Although the president's authority to direct his agencies to exercise their authorities is already well settled, okay, this happens all the time. Nobody takes control of the federal government via judicial fiat. The district court, this judge, issued what it styled as a TRO, a temporary restraining order, enjoining continued reliance on the memo, saying you can't do anything based on the memo. But the memo was already gone by the time the court came out, and added a vaguely worded prohibition on another memo in another form. Said, well, you can't just rename it to something else. But the district court didn't stop there because they're nuts. Although the government issued a notice instructing federal agencies to comply with the order, plaintiffs, the people suing the states, they identified certain instances in which they believed that their states and their hack thieves were receiving federal funds not nearly fast enough. Turn it on. Turn it on. We need our money. We need it now. 1-800-TISH-JAMES. I need my money. I need it now. The government explained that these delays were attributable to various factors other than the memo. And they said, well, that's because everybody's asking for their full amounts. We have to make sure they're not fraudulent. There's processing delays. And a separate memo had already described all of this. The court also accused the government of violating your order. But the government did no such thing, Judge. This is to the Court of Appeals. Instead, we sought with good faith to comply with the obligations. We were ruthlessly complying, even when there was ambiguity, even when he was asking us to do things that we're lawfully allowed to do. We were doing it. So under the new order, The president and federal agencies, they're telling the Court of Appeals, cannot delay any funding. Okay, we have no control over any money at all. Illustrating the absurd, right? Funding in order to ensure that the taxpayers are being spent properly. Okay, all even fraudulent money has to go out. We can't limit anything. If you're paying, if it's literally illegal, you have to pay it without first getting permission from the judge. Indeed, federal agencies cannot delay funding, even when authorized to do so by their organic statutes and regulations, unless they obtain permission from the district court. And this prohibition applies not to a particular program, but across all programs administered anyways. A single district court judge has attempted to wrest from the president the power to take care and that the laws be faithfully executed. This state of affairs cannot be allowed to persist, and so we need a stay. They give us the background. We know they issued the order. As the text said, the pause applied only to funding that was implicated by executive orders. Now, the guidance reiterated that agencies should pause their fundings only when doing so would be consistent with the law. Okay, so don't turn off money if it's illegal to do that. But the states sued anyways. They challenged the memo. I want my money and I need it now. So they moved for a restraining order. Before the district court even held a hearing, a district court from D.C. considered a similar challenge and issued a stay. Then the OMB rescinded the memo. Now, despite the rescission of the memo, the district court in this case proceeded to consider their motions anyways. It's like moot at that point. Judge says, I don't care. This is my chance. At a hearing, the court heard arguments, entered in relief, ordered more filings. The district court entered an order that was a restraining order. Said, we have to assume the worst case scenario, said the judge. And on that basis, they denied their request. In other words, let's continue. The court directed that 26 governments and defendants shall not pause, freeze, impede, block, cancel, or terminate their compliance with the awards. So give them their money. The court commanded that the government shall also be restrained from reissuing or changing the order. Now, the district court did not specify an end date, just says it remains in effect until I say so. On February 3rd, one business day after the court issued its order, the government responded, said, we don't understand your order. It's very ambiguous. Can you please clarify? 4 days later, the states moved to enforce the order, saying Trump is not complying. The state said, we have identified where we have not gotten our money yet. Then the government said, this is why you're not getting your money, because there's an unusually large number of people. They all want all of their money now, right? As soon as the portal turns back on, everybody's requesting the full amount of their grants. Like, I have to get my cash now because it's not going to be there. So they're saying we have to take a moment and consider this stuff. The district court granted the motion to enforce earlier today. According to the court, the plain language of the order prohibits all pauses, okay? All pauses or freezes. You have to pay the money. The court indicated the government could request targeted relief, like, well, Your Honor, I think this check is fraudulent. So you have to batch that up and go take it to the court. The court ordered that for the duration, the government must immediately restore frozen funding. This judge wants fraudulent money to be paid. Justice in America. Thanks, Judge. Must immediately end all federal funding pause because the blue states want their money, man, and they're going to do everything they can to get it. They say this is clearly ridiculous to the Court of Appeals. Your Honors, the district court's order represents an extraordinary usurpation of the president's executive power. Their original order, although issued without any lawful basis, at least respected the executive branch's authority to decline to award funds based on considerations separate from the memo. There's many reasons why we might want to rescind those funds. Many are legitimate. Even if you say the OMB memo is not legitimate, we have 5 other reasons to not cash that. The court stated that the government was prohibited from stopping funding except on the basis of the applicable statutes, regulations, and terms, right? So like, okay, you can follow the law and withhold money if it's allowed under the law. But the court then changed it, said they didn't mean it apparently, when informed that the government had not immediately provided all the funding that the states wanted. So Letitia and Mays from Arizona and the rest of them, Where's our money? We need it. They went back. The district court declared, your guys are in violation. They said that their credit card checks for their shopping didn't clear. The court did not even purport to identify any statute, any regulation, any other legal requirement that the Trump people had violated. Not at all. Nor did it explain why it would be proper, or in some cases even lawful, to expend taxpayer dollars without first ascertaining that the money was properly and lawfully payable as requested. Like, we're complying with the law. So for good measure then, the court explicitly stated that the government must cease to apply an OMB memo that had been issued before this one. They sued based on one specific memo. The judge said, well, I'm going to get rid of your other one too, that they didn't even complain about. The court did not specify which plain text of his memo, and then he screamed at them, you should have understood what I said. It's clear from the plain text of my order. They say, well, could you tell us what that plain text was? Could you underline it for us? Because we're having difficulties with it. Though it apparently referred to some vague statement in the original order that prohibited the government from reissuing, adopting, implementing, or otherwise giving effect to something else under another name or title. Now, more extraordinarily still, Trump's DOJ says the court stated that its TRO extended to any funding pauses that might be based on the president's executive orders. So everything that Trump has signed is now paused according to this judge. They say this is insane. This court's order intrudes deeply into the prerogatives of the executive branch and the discretion committed to the president under Article 2. And you have to think about this from the Supreme Court's perspective. They're going to go, yeah, this is bad. The order thus undermines rather than promotes the rule of law by requiring the government to expend and pay taxpayer dollars without regard for even the normal processes for ensuring compliance with applicable laws and regulations. In other words, this judge just, like the floodgates were already open, he opened a whole separate set of floodgates. So you can't even check. Just now release everything. None of your pauses are valid. The district court explicitly indicated that its order extends to funding decisions that were made not just based on the memo, but any other executive order. Everybody's getting paid. The court directed the government defendants, so Trump, to immediately give them their money, immediately restore the withheld funds, without regard to whether agencies even have discretion. Well, Judge, but they could originally withhold the funds. Not anymore, they can't. It's open. And the carve out for the government to come and request relief only underscores the sweeping coverage of the court's micromanagement. And this is this ruthless compliance. Like, okay, make them take control. Let's see it. Let's see what the Supreme Court, even Roberts, is going to have to be upset about that. Indeed, it is not clear how the United States can even comply with this. Like, there will be tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of transactions every day that people are looking at. We can't even delay payments. So if a payment comes up, we cannot delay it so that we can go ask you what to do about it because you've denied our ability to delay it. We have, like, the floodgates are open. There are no checks. At minimum, Court of Appeals, you should clarify that this order is unlawful. It extends beyond the rescinded OMB. It prevents agencies from exercising their already existing authority under the original statutes. It prevents the president from exercising discretion under the Constitution, saying agencies are allowed to take actions to pause, freeze, and stop funds from being siphoned off. It's already been well settled in these cases and these cases and these cases. Now, at an absolute minimum, an immediate stay is necessary to permit government agencies to do their job. But the errors in the court's analysis are even deeper. And its original order, though less sweeping, was plainly contrary to the law and should also be stayed. Now, as an initial matter, the district court did not even attempt to direct its order to a final agency that is still in effect. Rather, the court granted the relief on the premise that the memo could hypothetically affect a decision at some point in the future, just made it up. The proper recourse was never to impose judicial oversight over the federal government, but to await a concrete dispute brought by someone alleging an actual injury. But this judge entered an order. It's like an abstract matter. There's not even anything here. They're not even complaining about a specific award or any statutory provisions or anything. They're complaining about a memo that doesn't exist, and this judge took control. Such limitations exist to resolve these things, right? These cases should never have made it in. These are threshold issues. Our memo was lawful, by the way. The president has the authority to direct subordinate agencies to implement his agenda, and that's what he did. The memo was crystal clear that agencies should implement pauses on grants affecting administrative priorities only it's allowed under the law. The district court was simply wrong to characterize the memo as unilaterally suspending federal money. That's not what happened. The court's solely and sorely misguided impression that the memo affected a broad range of pauses was essential to their determination, and it was wrong, right? The decision was premised on something that was wrong. As a legal matter, moreover, temporary pauses in funding happen all the time. The legislative branch accepts it. It's happened here. It's happened here. GAO did it here. Oh, and the OMB memo that Trump issued fits comfortably within this. Short-term delays, we do pauses all the time. We decide how to implement policy objectives. Like, we just want to schedule a meeting with you, for crying out loud. Stop spending money until we can just have a lunch. The balance of equities overwhelmingly favors a stay. The district court's order prohibits the executive branch from exercising their lawful authorities to stop the siphoning off of taxpayer funds. It intrudes on Trump and the executive branch, barring the government from ensuring that we're legally permitted, that we're actually spending money appropriately, is a direct affront to the will of the people. And it's an intolerable intrusion on the executive branch. And this order also presents especially stark separation of powers problems, as they're going to learn a lot about soon. As noted, parts of the original order purported to explicitly preserve the agency's ability to exercise their own lawful authority, but the order also had a vague instruction not to implement the memo. Okay, so in addition, it didn't have any detail about the precision about what is allowed or not allowed. That language turned out to be an opening for the district court to shove its own policy in there, replacing what the president does by getting the court's approval. Now, as the court itself seems to acknowledge, its broad order almost certainly sweeps in conduct that is legal and constitutional. Now, the Constitution vests the entire executive in the president. The courts don't get a little piece of it and get to say, well, that decision from the president is harmful to certain people. That's his decision. If he has the constitutional authority to do it, and he does in this case, you don't get to consider and substitute your judgment for his. The order's breadth magnifies these concerns. The order does not apply to a discrete agency action. It's not like something they did and some person got cut off on some fund for something, but rather it purports to govern the manner in which federal agencies make funding decisions across a bunch of programs. The order is not even limited to the OMB. It extends to numerous federal agencies and actors. It covers the president. And the order exceeds the claimed injury, which is getting money. There can be no doubt that the universal injunction is more burdensome to the government than necessary. Now, the harms to the government and the public could not be unwound. We're paying that. We're not going to be able to get this money back. Even apart from the government's sovereign interests, the court's order would threaten to require the government to release funds in situations where they are legally entitled to make decisions about those funds. You say we have to give it out, but there is no sound basis to compel the government to continue to take action when it's a waste of money. If it doesn't improve the lives of the people we serve, we have to pay it? What? Conversely, the states have not established that they're going to suffer some irreparable harm. They have not even made an individualized showing that they're going to be deprived of any money that is needed for some irreversible consequence. Instead, they rely on generic assertions. They say, well, we get this money. It's like, it's their allowance is getting cut off. Like, well, we get it every month, so we're entitled to it every month. They ignore that they will receive any funds that are legally obligated to be dispersed. Okay, so stop your hystericism, Tish. You're going to get some money. And to the extent that they have a legally cognizable dispute over an agency, a court can consider that in a specific agency action. So wait until there's an actual claim. Now, the affirmative directives of the lower court leave no doubt that this is an injunction and it's immediately appealable. The states would be mistaken to suggest that we're trying to evade appellate review. This court has explained that the existence of adversarial presentation make this subject to immediate appeal. And this is going to be a big deal. Far from merely preventing the government from relying on the allegedly unlawful, even now rescinded agency action, this is going to be billions of dollars that we're going to have to siphon out. Billions. And this judge is like, perfect. All my Democrat friends are going to get it. This case thus exemplifies the concern that the Supreme Court says about the need on unappealable TROs. And so now we're kind of debating about whether this is going to be heard. Even if this court were to conclude this is unappealable, you should exercise your discretion and consider this to be a petition for a writ of mandamus. Sign here in conclusion by Brian Springer. Shout out, man. It's fun to cheer on the DOJ attorneys for once. You know, we had 4 years of ripping on all of them. But hey, Brian Springer, we like prosecutors again. What's up, Brian? Great job. Nice filing. So amazing filing there. And obviously true. What this judge is doing is nuts. And I think, again, this is part of the ruthless compliance trap. They're just going to let these judges go nuts and file and file and file and try to take control of the executive branch. But what's ultimately going to happen is they're going to look even more ridiculous than you might expect. And the Supreme Court's going to have to correct the record on that. So I wanted to take a look at the docket to see if we had any orders that just popped up on this one. What is the most recent update here? It looks like we got an order that just dropped, looks like today, minutes ago, from the Court of Appeals on this case. Here we go. Let's see what they wrote. Fresh out of the oven. And let's get our red pen out. Entered February 11th by the clerk. Says, all right, on January 31st, the district court issued an order granting the restraining order. Okay, so the states won and stopped Trump's order from going into effect. On February 6th, then they entered another order which extended the order, as we saw. On February 10th, the district court granted the motion for enforcement of the order. Now, Trump and the administration have appealed. They have also filed with this court 2 motions. One for a stay pending appeal, which they asked us to resolve by Valentine's Day, and an administrative stay. The sole motion we address is the motion for the stay. Now, this circuit has not addressed whether or when an administrative stay of the sort here may be issued. And there is well-recognized uncertainty as to what standards guide the decision to issue or not. Here, Trump have requested a stay pending appeal from the district court, which has not yet ruled on their motion. And there's a bunch. Okay, so a party must ordinarily move. Moreover, a centerpiece of the dispute between the parties in this appeal concerns the proper way to construe the 10th order. Finally, insofar as we have jurisdiction to consider the request for an appeal coming out of a TRO, saying the defendants do not cite any authority in support of their administrative stay request or identify any harm. So in these circumstances, we assume we have jurisdiction and deny the motion for the administrative stay without prejudice. Now, we're confident that the district court, so in other words, the lower court order, Trump loses, the lower court order stays in effect, and says, we assume that the lower court will act with dispatch to provide any clarification needed with respect to, among other things, Trump's contention that the order bars the president and much of the federal government from exercising their lawful authorities to withhold funding. They say they're asking the lower court judge to clarify that. Like, did you really bar the president? They're giving this judge like a gimme. Like, you didn't really bar the president, did you? Kind of wink, wink on that one, you know? Then he'll go back, no, I definitely didn't. Revise his order for the 3rd time to take control of the executive. We note in this regard that the plaintiff's statement in their opposition to the defendant's motion for an administrative stay consistent with the TRO does not stop Trump from limiting access to funds without any pre-clearance from the district court on the basis of the statute. So they're saying, okay, Trump, your claims that you can't do your job are unfounded, and we're just going to send this back down, and the parties may file any further memo in support of their positions on the motion for a stay pending appeal in this court by 5 p.m. this week. Okay, so the administrative stay is denied, right? We deny the motion for the administrative stay, and they're giving us a bunch of technical appellate reasons that you could, really parse through. We won't here about why they haven't met the standard for that and why that's denied. But they'll consider another stay pending the appeal on other terms. But at this moment, they're just giving the lower court judge the opportunity to basically come out and say, Trump's interpretation of your TRO are not valid, and he can modify that so that Trump loses the argument there. So we'll see what the lower court judge does. It's like they are kind of scolding the lower court judge. Like, surely he is going to, with dispatch, like with haste, act with dispatch to clarify this, because certainly the president cannot be excluded, right, Judge? So he'll come back and he'll water back down his order a bit, and then Trump will have more submissions coming later this week, no doubt about this. So the administrative stay they lost, but they'll come back for the appeal. So we'll keep our eye, obviously, on this case. We've got Chris Murphy, who's out here having a meltdown. Let me just show you what he sounds like. They're crying like Chicken Little, I think. The sky is falling constantly. They already tried this in 2024. Democracy is over every day. It's all coming to an end. We're all going to die. Here he was last night with Caitlin Collins doing the same thing. Okay, our society is held together by a thin line. Our entire society is going to unravel because we're identifying billions of dollars of government fraud and abuse paid out to your BFFs. They sound hysterical, and I think this is going to come back to bite them in the butt.
Court rulings and constitutional court rulings. No one is above the law, and whether we like it or not.
Except Joe Biden's family. All 5 of his family members and Hunter Biden, they're all above the law.
The courts interpret the law. So, yes, throughout the history of the United States, the courts have made rulings on when the executive branch is exercising legal power and when they are going beyond the power that they have, either constrained by statute or by the Constitution, just as they regularly rule on whether or not individuals have complied with the law or violated the law, whether those be civil laws or criminal laws.
They're not making those determinations in a lawful disagreement between the executive and the legislative branches. They are commandeering the executive branch. They are ordering websites to be back on, and they're turning the floodgates on that even prohibit the executive branch from stopping money being siphoned off by literal fraudsters, right? There's no real allowance for them to impede the transition of those funds by the judge's own order, because this is really what the government bureaucrats are capable of doing and what they're good at doing, which is this. Shout out to this dude. Give him a follow. Charles R. Downs. He reports as a journalist there, works with Laura Loomer, amazing. And here was what he was sharing with us today. So while you were hard at work paying your taxes, here's what our government bureaucrat were doing. They were doing in DC.
Check it out. AFGE, the organization that endorsed Kamala for president, is now arriving to the protest. To protest President Trump and Elon Musk. That's the life of a federal employee now. Wake up, telework, and protest. That's all they do. Pretty remarkable to witness. Stay tuned for more.
All right, so fun stuff there. That's what they're doing. That's what it sounds like, and they're excited about that. Now, Mike Johnson got asked about a lot of this litigation and what's happening, and here's what he said with the Republicans.
As I said last week, the Democratic Party is in a completely different place right now. There's no identified leader of the party. They don't have a clear vision. They seem rudderless. In hopes of finding themselves, they've latched onto this new shiny object called the rule of law. Well, we'd like to welcome them to the concept. It would be admirable if they hadn't spent the last 4 years with their heads buried in the sand while Biden literally trampled over the rule of law with no objection. In fact, many Democrats cheered that lawlessness, like when the Biden administration unconstitutionally forced the middle class to pay the student loans of doctors and lawyers, when they illegally mandated that private companies,
which are mostly Democrats, right? Like higher academia, like like sociology, like basket weaving classes, right? All those. They're Democrat entities. Those are Democrat institutions. So they all get their student loans paid off. Meanwhile, people working construction or digging ditches or cleaning pools like I did, they didn't get that benefit, right? They don't get that benefit. So it's interesting. It's always about the money, right? And the money always seemingly flows to like that Democratic class, no matter where it ends up. It's always in their pockets.
Implement vaccine requirements when they radically rewrote Title IX to undermine women's rights. Those things were actually illegal, and the Democratic Party cheered it. They didn't oppose it at all. President Trump, by contrast, is taking legitimate executive action to root out waste, fraud, and abuse in all these federal programs. That's what the American people demand and deserve. That's what they voted for. They voted for a real analysis and a real change, transformational kind of change in the way the federal government works. And the only people who take issue with it are these same congressional Democrats who never before had any issue with unelected staff or even bureaucrats running the White House for the last 4 years. That's not what's happening here. The president has empowered his new cabinet secretaries and the DOGE effort and all of these branches, divisions in the executive branch of government to go and find where the abuses have taken place. And every time something new is unearthed and uncovered and we share it with the people, they applaud that this has been discovered and they want us to keep going. And that's...
Yeah, we do. We would like you to actually also help from Congress, by the way. We appreciate the nice statements and everything, but you could also pass some legislation, and every single one of these people could be out there every day supporting what Trump and Elon and Doge and the amazing people who are leading this charge are doing every single day, because we know the Democrats are responding in kind. So we're happy to see it. We want to see maybe even some legislation, right? We're in control of both houses. Why are we even debating these judges? Just pass some legislation, defund it immediately. Defund that one too immediately. So we can just file, hey, Trump signed it into law. Now we've got congressional approval and anchor this crap in. So let's go. Let's see the Republicans get after it. All right. Now let's talk about what is happening at the Treasury Department. And I think there may have just been an update on this. I think we might have to do a little audible here, because I think there may have been an update that might even make that moot what I was about to read. As we're sitting here, orders are flying. So let's see. All right, we're checking the docket on this one. And let's see what has been filed. Motions. We do have an order. That was today. And yeah, we have another one. All right, so here we go. Yeah, so this just dropped. From Jeanette Vargas. This was another New York case. All right, let's just read this one. I'm not sure what's in this one exactly. I was going to read a different filing from this case, but let's see what the judge says, because this is fresh out of the oven as well here. All right. The case is State of New York versus Trump. This is in the Southern District of New York. The judge who signed this order, of course, is Jeanette Vargas. We learned a lot about her yesterday. She used to clerk for Sonia Sotomayor and was very enthusiastically endorsed by Senator Gillibrand from New York, and has now issued a TRO that restrained Trump and the Treasury Department. Now she's issuing an order after there was a back and forth. Remember that she had originally ordered both sides to meet and confer to see if they could have an agreement about access and so on. And this is her order now. Says, and this is the one that was entered by Judge Paul Engelmeyer. Okay. And so she inherited that case. He issued the original order. Defendants in this action from Trump have filed an emergency motion to dissolve, clarify, or modify the ex parte temporary restraining order. Remember, she was sitting in her chambers. The states came up to her. They're like, we're going to die because our money and so. And she's like, you are going to die. And she granted that and said federal government is now prohibited because she loves Sonia Sotomayor. So she says, look, that was entered. Trump filed an emergency motion. We have to clarify this or modify this. And she splits it. For the reason stated herein, the court denies the motion to dissolve the TRO. Okay, so I'm not going to get rid of it, but I am going to grant in part and deny in part the motion to modify the terms. Okay, so partial victory for Trump. And I think we're going to see a lot of this, by the way. Like these judges, they all stole the TVs out of the store on Black Friday. They realized we can get away with anything. Everybody's got 3 TVs, 2 PlayStations. You've got all the new cell phones, couple iPhones, little MacBook over here running out. Then the judges are like, ooh, shouldn't have taken all that because it's illegal and I can't do that. That's against the law and I have ethics, or supposed to have ethics. So then they're giving some stuff back, right? They're shoving back the iPhones and stuff. Oh, take this one back. Now, here's the procedural history. Remember how this happened? So ridiculous and sneaky and cowardly, really, because this is who these people are. At 9:30 p.m. on February 7th, which I think was a Friday night, 19 states collectively, represented by their hack blue Democrat AGs like Chris Mays from Arizona and Tish James from New York, they submitted a request for an emergency temporary restraining order under the rules of civil procedure. And this judge loves them, right? All of the SDNY. SDNY is one of the most corrupt jurisdictions in the whole country, by the way. So they got the case, accepted it, and she issued the order. Emergency temporary restraining order, ex parte. Didn't even talk to the government. Like, it's not like she's calling me, right? And like, it's like Friday, 9:30, like I'm getting ready for bed, like not answering the phone. This is the federal government. Okay. She could have picked up the phone and called the Treasury Department. You know what I'm saying? And said, hey, 19 states are here. You want to respond to this? Didn't. The complaint said that the statement that the Department of Treasury, at the direction of the president and Scott Bessent, had adopted a new policy, right? This is what they're so upset about, that gave them access to payment systems, saying that there were political appointees that were accessing data. The states say that this policy violates the APA, exceeds statutory authority of the Treasury Department, violates the separation of powers, violates the take care clause, which they know nothing about. The states sought an ex parte, right, without even notifying the government that exists, a temporary restraining order to restore the status quo prior to agency action. Now, on February 8th, then this judge, in his capacity as a Part 1 judge, granted the request for the TRO. And I think people are digging into this judge's background, and we're finding some stuff out. I think, did I have a Laura Loomer clip on that one? Maybe not. Anyways, so was looking into that. Sorry for all the tab changes. Oh, I forgot where we were. We're over here. Yeah, it says, based upon his review, Engelmeyer determined the states had shown that they're going to face irreparable harm because of the risk that the new policy presents that they might disclose sensitive information. Engelmeyer further found the states have shown that they're going to win on their claims. Yeah, right. And then they issued the order. Now, the judge said, you're basically banned, right? The TRO restricted the defendants from accessing the payment records, Bureau of Fiscal Services, and more. And Trump's people were ruthlessly complying with this, right? Ruthless compliance. On the evening of February 9th, then Trump filed an emergency motion. Now, in their motions, Trump and the admin argued that the temporary restraining order contravenes Article 2 of the Constitution to the extent that it applies to political appointees, in particular, the Treasury Secretary and other Treasury Secretary leadership. Trump also says the TRO unnecessarily restricts Federal Reserve employees and outside contractors from accessing the payment systems. And remember, that's where Trump was saying, oh, I guess if we're prohibited from doing it, I guess we're prohibited from doing it. There goes your Treasury bonds. Now, the same evening, the court ordered the parties to meet and confer, right? Then the judge was like, oh, crap. Can you guys please talk about this? She realized what she did. Oh, wait, you guys, I just banned like way more than I could chew. Why don't you guys meet? See if you can figure this out. If no agreement was made, they had deadlines. Now, the parties did reach an agreement on proposed language to modify the order. The states opposed any modification on the prohibition on political appointee access, whatever that means, saying that the TRO does not restrict the senior political appointees, right? So it's only some political appointees, but not other political appointees. She goes through, gives us some analysis, says under the rules, an adverse party to a TRO can appear. Now, here's what happened, she says. In entering the restraining order, it was the lower judge's clear intention, as had been requested, to maintain the status quo so that we could have a hearing on this. That's what he wrote in his order. Now, to the extent that the language of the TRO can be read to inadvertently preclude routine operations or maintenance of the system, a modification is appropriate, right? So she's like, oops, we didn't mean to like overly limit you. Sorry, we're undoing that. there is nothing in the record to indicate that prior to January 20th that any statute or agency policy prohibited the Secretary of Treasury or any other Senate-confirmed person from accessing the records. The parties both point to language in a Krauss affidavit, which states that the Secretary of Treasury does not ordinarily get in there. Whether they routinely access that data is different than whether they're prohibited, though, like they can. If they want to go look at it, they can. She says, more fundamentally, there are no allegations, even by the states, saying that access to the payment systems is a threat of disclosure. Like Scott can't even go look at the systems, or that their access would result in hacking or something. To the extent the language of the TRO could be read to place senior officials within the scope of it, again, we modify that. So Trump's Treasury Department, his leadership, can access it again. Great. Saying other Senate-confirmed Treasury officers are not prohibited from accessing the systems. Great. It's great. So, however, to the extent that they want to eliminate access by, quote, political appointees, like whatever that means, more broadly, the court denies the motion. So it's like, was anybody even asking for this? Like, nobody was asking to have Department of Transportation come over here and do work on Department of Treasury. So they said, we're not going to allow you to have your political appointees look at the records, except you are. You just said the Secretary of Treasury and other Senate-confirmed senior Treasury officers are not prohibited from accessing the system. Okay, who are the other political appointees then, if it's not those guys? Were there any? Like, that's it. There was a sound factual basis for this central dimension. The complaint says that there was expanded access. And the harms alleged in the complaint, they said, well, if there was expanded access, which there wasn't, that we could grant this immediately. And so accordingly, the court grants in part, denies in part. So you're still prohibited from having your political appointees access the stuff, except these political appointees, which are the only political appointees that you really care about anyways, accessing the data and the systems. So it's like total vindication. So this is what we're going to see. They are going to have these little temporary orders that are existing. Like, this is a saving face. I think this is essentially Trump won, because he's going to have his political appointees back in control of the Treasury. And other people who he wasn't even trying to get access to are still not going to have access to it. Great. And she's giving us some footnotes here. I'm just giving those a quick glance, seeing if there's anything worthwhile there. So she's backpedaling on that pretty aggressively. Great job. Scott Bessent now has access. So do the other political appointees. They all have access. Like, this is obvious. This should have never gotten this far. And she's backtracking on this big time. So she'll say it's granted in part and denied in part. Like, you still can't have those people over to your house. I wasn't going to invite them anyways. Well, they're still not allowed to come in. Good. I don't want them here. Well, I'm victorious in my motion. No. So, all right, that's the judge. And actually a positive development, a positive ruling there. So I had some other reaction here. As you could see, we had Jasmine Crockett is out there and she's screaming about this. And this seems quite insurrectionary to me.
So let me tell you something, Mr. Trump. You're going to learn a few lessons from us.
Uh-oh.
And I'm going to be the first one. You and your little friend off of Twitter. Y'all about to find out, all right?
Oh! Oh!
So let me tell
what? That's an insurrection. She can be indicted immediately, and hopefully they get Liz Cheney too. So that's Jasmine Crockett. Now, this has been just a ton of fun. As we know, Elon is now going by the moniker Harry, first name, last name, B-O with the little thing over it, LZ. Harry Balls is how I think you properly pronounce it. And Dana Bash is having a hard time with this one.
Now, the disruptor-in-chief, Elon Musk, who apparently has adopted the alias, at least he changed his social media handle to Harry Balls, tweeted this morning, democracy in America is being destroyed by judicial coup.
It's true.
An activist judge is not a real judge.
True.
And as now,
it's obstruction of justice under the color of law. And these judges better be very careful. They're treading a very fine line here. So Harry Balls posted about this. Jason Miller was out traveling abroad talking about AI at an AI conference and so on. And he's representing America. And I'm appreciating a lot more video support of Elon and Trump from all of the Republicans across the board. It's nice to see it.
Well, it's a breath of fresh air that Elon has come in. I guess you'd say a bull in a china shop, which is a term that we use in the United States. But what's important to point out is that this is what the voters voted for. They voted for President Trump to put together the right people to change the country, to change the direction of the United States. And that is something that I think Elon Musk is doing. And despite the some of the media outrage, as we talk about the credibility of the media, President Trump's poll numbers have never been higher. He's at his absolute best popularity right now with Elon Musk helping him change the system.
And it's looking good. So shout out to Jason Miller for sharing that one. James Comer is also out there and having conversations. But one person who's having a meltdown on this is Elizabeth Warren. As you can see, she was asking questions of Jerome Powell, Federal Reserve Chairman, and everything she's crying about is not even realistic.
By forcing the CFPB not to do its job, President Trump, Elon Musk, and the author of Project 2025, Russ Vought, are giving Wall Street banks an unlimited get-out-of-jail-free card so they can cheat working families, even while community banks continue to play by the rules. You know, for any Americans who have money deposited at JP Morgan or Wells Fargo or any other of the giant banks, they should now know that there is no one on the job to make sure that those banks are not scamming you.
The suggestion that the ranking member has made here is that the big banks can now scam individuals right now. Any change in the laws regarding how they're supposed to be treating the individual consumers out there or anything along that line?
Law changes? No, I'm not aware of any.
Any changes in any rules that they would have to follow?
Not that I'm aware of.
Are they still audited, and do they still have the regulators in watching all of their businesses just as they did before?
Well, they'd have all the regulators except for the CFPB.
Very good.
If in fact, in the hypothetical, the CFPB weren't carrying that out.
And it is going away. So CFPB was Elizabeth Warren's little love child, and now it's going away. She's not going to be able to use it to abuse Americans, but her screeching about this, like they're going to take out, like Elon's going to steal your social security number. First of all, Elizabeth Warren and the useless leadership in Washington, I'm pretty sure the Chinese already have all of our social security numbers. Not that I want it spread around anyways, you know, and out there and about, but the idea that some unelected bureaucrat who's a lifetime civil servant, whatever that means, is more trustworthy and reputable than Elon is a joke. So Elizabeth Warren is just, I think, watching her bank account like the stock markets, you know, when they're not doing well every day, and wants that money back. So a big question has come up about whether we can impeach these judges. Representative Eli Crane has a plan, says we can solve this judicial corruption problem quite simply. Just impeach them. Says, I'm drafting articles of impeachment for U.S. District Judge Paul Engelmeyer, the judge who issued the TRO against Trump, cutting off his executive powers to make changes that he was elected to change. Says partisan judges abusing their positions is a threat to democracy. The left has done irreparable harm to this country. President Trump and his team at Doge are trying to fix it. Says this is obviously judicial overreach. Judge Engelmeyer is attempting to stop White House employees from accessing the very systems they oversee. Where in the Constitution does it say a president and his team cannot root out waste, fraud, and abuse? It doesn't, Representative Crane. And we're looking forward to seeing what his articles of impeachment look like. And of course, we're waiting for those to get dropped. But we were looking into this. And of course, we ask about impeachment. In fact, yesterday we had the wild idea about forming a select committee to investigate judicial corruption. And you could fill it with whomever you want because of Liz Cheney and her precedent with Nancy Pelosi. And you could subpoena certain people to come in, and their professional position, like if you were working in the executive branch, for example, your privilege against coming in and responding is irrelevant. So you could do the same thing with judges. And then when they deny the subpoenas, of course, you could indict them, just like they did to Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro. And then you're like, Rob, that's crazy. They literally did it. Okay, that's the point. So that may be a little bit far out there, but what about impeachment, right? You only need to do this to one judge. You just get one judge impeached. You just get one judge subpoenaed to your fake select committee, or one judge gets indicted for tax crimes or whatever else they do. Okay, whatever they're doing in their free time. I'm sure it's all above board, I'm sure. But here's the point. You don't even need to go that far, okay? We talk a lot about impeachment here, and the regular standard for impeachment is about high crimes and misdemeanors, right? You get indicted, so-called, in the House of Representatives, and they take you over to the Senate for the trial, and then you're convicted and removed from office. So the same question comes up. Have these judges, Engelmeyer and Vargas and the other ones, have they committed a high crime and misdemeanor? Well, maybe not, probably not. But are they acting with good behavior? Capitalized with a B there. Here's what Article 3, Section 1 says. The judicial power of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court and in such inferior courts as the Congress may from time to time ordain and establish, right? So Congress could change the jurisdiction of the court and modify what DC does. The judges, both of the Supreme and the inferior courts, shall hold their offices during good behavior. What does that mean? And shall at stated times receive for their services a compensation which shall not be diminished during their time in office. Now, this is called the good behavior clause. Now, modern interpretations, as this article says, this article was posted for us over at the congress.gov website. They wrote it. Said, usually it's high crimes and misdemeanors, but others have said, no, it's actually a whole different standard that hasn't really been fleshed out in American law. We haven't had this come up a bunch. Others have rejected this notion, but there is some support for this in both sides. Usually, as a practical matter, this has not happened. The conduct of impeaching a judge is varied, right? It's not just for high crimes and misdemeanors. This article went through and gave us several examples. They've removed federal judges for intoxication on the bench, abandoning the office to join the Confederacy, various types of corruption as well. Congress has also impeached and removed judges for perjury and income tax evasion, right? Those might be high crimes and misdemeanors, but it's not clear. Now look at this. Right after the Constitution was signed and the country was just a baby, in 1804, Jeffersonian Republicans tried to nuke the Supreme Court Chief Justice at the time, called Samuel Chase, who they viewed as openly partisan and biased against their party. Okay? So, in other words, they filed impeachment, included that he acted in an arbitrary, oppressive, and unjust manner at trial, that he misapplied the law, and that he expressed partisan political views to a grand jury, right? This guy was just kind of a hack. They attempted to impeach him. Congress never removed him because of the political views. So in other words, they impeached him for that. It wasn't like some high crime or misdemeanor. Like, this guy's just a partisan hack, and he shouldn't be doing this from the Supreme Court. That's not what he's here for. So that's a good basis. So based on this historical practice, the good behavior standard arguably guards against the removal for a disagreement about the law's interpretation or political disagreements. And I don't know about that. I mean, it sounds like they just didn't have the willpower to get that done. So there are other criminal prosecutions, right? Judge Harry Claiborne, before he was impeached, he challenged an indictment. He got indicted. So there's a lot that could go on here. And these judges should be held to account. They're not gods in this country. And for them to just be able to, issue orders that invalidate the entire country is insane. And there needs to be tremendous reform. Now, Laura Loomer also found this one, said that Judge John McConnell, the federal judge from Rhode Island, who ordered the freeze of billions, we read that one yesterday, and we read the appeal on this one today. That judge apparently has a daughter with some interesting conflicts of interest. Here's what Laura Loomer has clipped for us. It says, Catherine McConnell is a senior policy advisor at the U.S. Department of Education. Isn't that great? Her dad's a federal judge. Oh, and she went to Harvard. Didn't she go to Harvard? Isn't that great? So She works in DC. Her daddy's a federal judge. She's a Harvard grad, probably a nice person. Maybe not. I don't know. You can see senior policy advisor, Office of the Career, Technical and Adult Education. So the judge turns the money back on, and his daughter gets paid, and all of her friends get paid. Policy advisor for adult education, special assistant, blah, blah, blah. Isn't that fun? An interview with outgoing board chair Jack McConnell. And also is on some boards. Interesting. Catherine McConnell. Yeah, she works over there. So daddy turns on the government money so she can keep her job. Isn't that just great? Now, there was also this that came out when it comes to that judge. This judge is called McConnell. We looked at him yesterday and understood what he was doing. But he also apparently was paying huge money to get this position. So Ted Cruz asked him, said during his confirmation hearings, said, well, how did Mr. McConnell become a judge? Well, according to CQ roll call, he contributed $500,000 to Democrat political appointees before he became a judge. Now he's a judge. After Senator Whitehouse, the racist judge whose wife is a member of a racist club in Connecticut, led the fight to get him appointed a judge. Amazing. Whitehouse fought back on Twitter denying those comments, says, everything I received is disclosed money. It's not dark. That's how you know it's there. It's because he paid me and I made him a judge anyways. So that is more corruption on display. Here's a little bit more from Mike Johnson explaining what he says. Harry Balls shared this one too.
I met with Elon yesterday about this to get an update. And to me, it's very exciting what they're able to do, because what Elon and the Doge effort is doing right now is what Congress has been unable to do in recent years, because the agencies have hidden some of this from us.
Yeah.
There's a lot of oversight activity that goes on around here all the time, you all know. But when duly elected representatives of the people request information to find all of these abuses and it's not turned over to us, what it takes is an actual audit of the systems and the files themselves that are often hidden from Congress. That's what you're seeing right now. And that's why this is so exciting. They're uncovering things that we have known intuitively have been there, but we couldn't prove it. Now the proof is being provided, and no one can argue the counter to that. So stay tuned. There's a lot more to come. And I think the courts should take a step back and allow these processes to play out. What we're doing is good and right for the American people. What Doge is doing is making sure that your taxpayer dollars, all of us, are spent in the way that they're intended to be spent, and that they're in America's interest, and they're financially responsible with the precious taxpayers' money. We have a $36 trillion federal debt, and we have got to get a hold of these things. You're going to see it reflected in the reconciliation package that comes forward. You're going to see it reflected in appropriations as we go forward, and you're going to see it in these efforts to cut the waste, fraud, and abuse. And we think the final number on that is going to be substantial and a game changer in Washington for the country.
Yeah, it is. And it's a sick thing that we're watching happen in real time. And he's like, all you people, all your taxes are coming out too. It's like, well, a lot of people in that room, including these Congress people, are getting more than they're giving, right? They're net takers. The rest of us are paying in. Nobody pays us grants to do stupid crap all day. But they get it, right? And you're always wondering, we're always sitting here wondering, like, how do these media companies pay all these people to do nothing? We read articles here with like 4 people on the bylines. Like this person, this person, this person, this. It's like 5 paragraphs. I'm like, what? It's like 1 paragraph per person in a group project, and they sign that, and they're all getting paid like 6 figures? What the hell's going on? Oh, they don't actually have to earn a profit. We're paying for it. And I'm happy that Congress is, now coming around. I appreciate Mike Johnson's statements on that. But I'd like to see some enthusiasm. Like, this is a 5-alarm fire that we're discovering. What is Congress doing about it? Where is the Judiciary Committee with new legislation to come in and support Doge, make Doge permanent, give Doge more power, take away the criticisms that they're lobbying against Elon, right? Make a special position or something for, techno genius of America or whatever. do something, right, to codify this and solidify the efforts. Don't just sit there from the sidelines and act like cheerleaders with your pom-poms, for crying out loud. We appreciate the pom-poms, Mike. You sound great. But you have control of both houses. Do something about the judges. Talk about defunding DC, the judiciary. Let's do something. We have a lot of momentum here. Let's not squander it, please. All right. So, my friends, it has been a beautiful day and an amazing stream. If you're just joining us, quick recap on what we talked about. We had a bunch of filings here today. So, multiple appeals, multiple filings. This was the website claim. Trump has to post a website back because the judge said so. So, the judge is now in charge of IT. We also read this appeal about the special counsel. Dellinger said, you have to hire me back. And Amy Berman Jackson, for some weird reason, gave him access to his emails for about 12 hours or however long. He might actually still have access to those. I think he does, pending the ruling from the Court of Appeals. So he probably still deleting files or whatever he's doing. We heard from Caroline Leavitt. We heard from Senator John Kennedy from Louisiana. We had an OMB update. Come on, click that one. There it is. OMB. We read through what the appeals look like, and we read through some additional orders that just came down from the Court of Appeals. Listen to a little bit of Murphy. We saw how the Democratic Party is ending themselves by supporting fraud, waste, and abuse. It's one of the most insane political ideas. It's like they go from transgenders to like, we support criminal fraud. It's like, wow. Great platform for you guys. We also then got a new update fresh out of the oven on this one. This was the Southern District of New York case. And I think this is a victory for Trump. She is keeping a TRO in place, but it's basically been emasculated. Like, what is she restraining? Everybody has access who needs access. So thanks for that, Judge. Thanks for wasting everybody's time and money on that. And then we saw Eli Crane is talking about impeachment. We understood that maybe there are some actual possibilities for that. And learn more about the corruption of the judges and how they're basically just Democrat operatives. And so it's been a beautiful stream, my friends, and a beautiful day. And now it's time to hear from you. And let's see what you say about all of this. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for subscribing to our channel. Thanks for considering becoming a membo. We go live for our membos only streams in the mornings. We talk about stuff in private as members, and we'd love to have you come and join us. Check that out at watchingthewatchers.locals.com, or you can become a member on YouTube. And of course, we'll see you tomorrow morning on the members only stream. We also have some donos that came in today, and thank you so much for sending these in and supporting our work here. We got this donut. Thank you for clipping for us. Says, I'm getting ready for that taco. You already know it's Taco Tuesday in the house. It is Tuesday. I almost forgot what day it is. Like, is it Tuesday? It is Tuesday. Damn. Hey, day's flying by. Carl Pullen became a supporter. And Fart Squirrel. What? Fart Squirrel's joining us too, along with Harry Balls. Amazing. So Carl Pullen, Fart Squirrel, and Harry Balls today. Thank you, Fart Squirrel. And thank you, Carl, for becoming membos. Hey, Fred. Wow, this is amazing. Fred Petamonte. Okay, so Fred Petamonte was here yesterday, and he had a little bit of an ask, because he's going through some hard times right now. He says, Rob, this show is so important to me. Watching the Watchers are the best. What Knox Bierman did, defense attorney Knox from the great state of Texas, what she did today is by far the nicest, most gracious thing anyone has ever done for me. I cried. I don't have the words. Thank you, Nancy. And thank you, Rob. And Fred, I don't even know what happened, but I do know this. Knox is an amazing person, and Knox has been a part of our community for a long time, and we're grateful for Knox. Knox comes and adds real value to the conversation and class, and she's a total babe too, and she's a defense attorney, and we love our defense attorneys here. So Knox really is a stellar person, and I don't know exactly what happened, but it sounds amazing. And thank you, Fred, for sharing that, man. I hope things do work out for you. And John McGarvey's pinging me. He says, tell him people don't have the Cash App, right? So I know Fred was kind of in hard times, and so people were Cash Apping him, but some people don't have Cash App, Fred. So, but I'm really glad that you're here, Fred, and I'm really thankful for Knox. Thank you, Knox, for that. And Fred, thanks for the nice comment, brother. We appreciate that. Hey, Chat With Me says, at what point does the Supreme Court get involved? So we're working our way up to them, and Trump is being ruthlessly compliant, like overly compliant. I think there's a better word for that. Like, it's not like malicious compliance. Like, he's not being malicious, but what's a better phrase for that? It's like ruthless compliance. I can't think of the right phrase for what it is. It's like when you comply so hard, it makes the other side regret it. Like, what's the phrase for that? You know, it's like, oh, you want it? You got it, mister. What's the word for you want it? You got it, buddy. What's the word for that? Kill him with kindness is a phrase. Is there a phrase? Or is it a euphemism, an idiom for that? Like you kill him with kindness. Yeah, vigorous compliance. Hostile compliance. That's not bad. Hostile compliance. Yeah, it's like vicious compliance almost. I think I liked ruthless because it's like, okay, we're gonna just be friggin' ruthless. Like you want malicious, like has kind of has a negative tone to it, doesn't it? Malicious is like almost criminal. It's like you're being bad. So I didn't like that. But what is the word for that? I don't know. There should be a word. We should make one up. Hey, Michael Stetson is here. Says, call her Pocahontas, Rob. She is Pocahontas. She's not even an Indian. That was a whole scene, man. That was hilarious. She's like, I am 1/1024th Indian. She made a whole tweet about it. And if you're into the Elizabeth Warren Slam Fest, man, there's a lot going on. We played her beer commercial today with her husband. When she welcomed her husband to her house, she's like, hey, thanks for being here, husband. Oh, my husband's here. Well, thanks for being here. Okay. And then she put her full mouth on the top of the beer bottle. Full mouth. Right over the whole bottle. What are you doing? It's not how you drink a beer. You ever drinking a beer before? Hey, Granny Joe is here. Man, she's got moves, Granny Joe. She's getting it. Granny Joe, thank you for bringing in 5 new membos. Chris Kelly is in the house. I1 is here. We got Adeline Starr. We got Chell Swanson Wilson in the house. And Wojo, gifted membos, courtesy of Granny Joe in the house. Thank you for that, Granny Joe. You got some moves. We appreciate that. Hey, it's the Munkets is in the house. Tony Hay Munkets is here. Bringing in 5 membos. ME is here. We got Night Court, Ikaika's Shuttle Service. Sounds fun. Wizard of Bows and Lauren NJ in the house. Brought in courtesy of Tony Hay Munkets in the house. Thank you, Tony Hay. We got this one from Jay Glow. Says, don't forget to hit the like button if your thumbs work. That'd be very helpful. Or your mouse button, either one. If you have functional digits. Thanks for hitting it. Cliff Norman says, Elon Musk today said, when the bureaucracy is in charge, there is no democracy. No, what we're living through is just a wild scene. Like we all knew it was bad, but the scale of what we're seeing here is quite shocking. Uncle Bozy says, while complying with the stay on Dillinger's firing, a DOJ attorney should have assigned to accompany him every second he has access to his files. Only allow him to log into his email or files and monitor everything he does. Only allow him access while he's physically in the office with the DOJ sitting right beside him at his desk. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Log every single thing he did. Back up everything. Hey, Chat With Me. 26 months as a membo. Thank you, Chat With Me. Really appreciate all that time. That's multiple babies. Says, didn't we just have a big situation about 150 years ago because states, now judges, wanted to override the federal government? Please, God, don't let us get to that point again in this nation. Yeah, well, we don't want a civil war. We don't want, breakdown of our constitutional order. The federal judges should help with that. They are not the executive branch. They know better than what they're doing, but they're DC and New York judges. It's the same lawfare. It's just transitioned from the executive into the judiciary. And the judges have been a problem forever. Of course, you guys know that because we've talked about the J6 cases here and how terrible every one of those judges were too. And the judges prosecuting Trump, right? They're as rigged as anybody. And they're doing tremendous damage to themselves by engaging in this because the courts only have their power really from their legitimacy. And they're operating against this will of the entire public. Like the public wants fraud gone. And I think as it stands right now, they're identifying Trump and Elon in that vein, and the Democrats can't take it. Londo, what's up? Says, Rob, the wallet is working again, baby. I got coins. You got coins. You're like Oprah, Londo. It's good to see you. We all got coins. Thank you, Londo. I appreciate your support, man. Glad it's working again. Works to my benefit. Philip Coggins says Bates is the same judge that restored DACA when Trump tried to kill it the first time. And yeah, we're going to see a lot of familiar faces here again. Philip also says, as head of FISA courts, Bates authorized the metadata collection programs of the NSA. Wow, that sounds like a bad dude. I'll have to read up more about them. Thank you, Philip. Yeah, that's bad. Hey, Ray Ronk, what's up? All I do is win, win, win no matter what, says Ray Ronk. 16 months as a membo. Thank you, Ray, for being here. Almost 2 full babies coming up. We appreciate you. Rick D, what's up, Rick Donner, says, here's a question. I have noticed that all the cabinet secretaries are listed in the suits in personal capacity as well. It's my understanding that a government lawyer cannot represent you in a personal capacity. Do they have to hire a personal attorney in all these cases as well? No, I wouldn't say so. No, I think they're just listing them individually for completeness, but no, they'll be represented by their agencies. They're ultimately suing their agencies. Like, I don't think there were any claims that like someone was acting in a personal capacity or acting outside the scope of the government or any way. These have all been agency lawsuits, but it's an interesting question. Like, and that we see everybody's listed on them, right? Good to see you, Rick. Hey, Michelle. Thank you, Michelle. Nice one. Says, some federal judges have security clearances. Special counsel is useful to a retired judge who has dreams of being a special master when they retire. Trump can remove his special counsel or flag him to never get a security clearance. Yeah. And like, what's so bizarre about this, Michelle, is that the judges are not giving us a real strong basis on this. Like, he filed his lawsuit. Amy Berman Jackson granted it ex parte, didn't even call the Treasury Department or Trump, just gave this guy who was removed access again without considering the national security implications or anything. Just said he's back. It's very strange. And he was, I think, a Biden appointee, as we learned, March 2024. So it's like they were shoving him in there at the last minute so that he could run roughshod over the Trump administration, right? He was a plant. Good to see you, Michelle. Thank you for the nice dono. Knox is here. Knox, the Knox of the hour, says, happy Tuesday, all. So I am having flashback to summertime and all those insane rulings out of the New York courts. Maybe we need to look at this as a legal audit, meaning we would never know how jacked up these judges are. It's like rooting out graft, but of the soul, and their rulings make us normal lawyers shake our heads. Yeah, it's true. They're all standing up, right, and identifying themselves. Oh, I'm a corrupt judge. I'm a corrupt judge. I'm taking over the website. I'm taking over Treasury. I'm taking over OMB. Thanks for identifying yourselves. Glocky shared this one. This one says, Doge. Federal employee retirements are processed using paper by hand in an old limestone mine in Pennsylvania. 700 plus mine workers operate 230 feet of underground to process 10,000 applications per month, which are stored in manila envelopes and cardboard boxes. The retirement process takes multiple months. That's what our government is doing. They're storing your files in a cave. Genius. Amazing. Tony Hay Munkett says, before Trump reelected, the stuff the Dems were doing was scary, even though we knew they were wrong. They had the power. They don't know Trump has a 70% approval rating. I'm not too worried about it. I'm not worried about it either, Tony Hay. It feels like this was the natural response. And I honestly think that Trump's team has thought this out multiple times over. So they knew the courts were going to come back here and try to stall this, which is why it feels like they're kind of like letting the rope out. Like, give them some rope, hang them with some rope, like give them the rope to hang themselves. Here you go. Injunction us to death. Have fun, because we're just bundling all this up and we know SCOTUS is not going to be happy about it. One old guy. Thank you, one old guy, for this nice one. Says, dipstick judges and AJs, it's true, have gotten ridiculously stupid by following the idiocracy New York City judges. Well, some are from New York, like Vargas. DA and AG, Dem activist judges and legal experts really look Bush League, back of the cereal box, mail order Juris Doctorates. It's true. Yeah, these opinions don't even have legal justifications for most of them. They're just a judge writing a 2 or 5 page order that are basic and believing everything that the states have to say. Saintly Beginnings, what's up? Says Representative Luna just announced a declassification public task force going after Epstein, RFK, JFK, and UAP. Yeah, I saw that. I think they oversold that for sure. I thought she was going to announce something, but I think it was just an announcement of a committee. Did I get that wrong? It's great. All right, another great committee. I hope she does an amazing job with it, and I endorse the releasing of the records, but she said it was going to be bigger than aliens, I thought, so I was a little let down on that one. Hey, here it is. Look at that. There's the mine. There's the mine. Ollie is bringing in one new member. Tam Bucci is in the house. What's up, Sharpie Guy? Thank you, Ollie. Sharpie Guy says the deep state is really the deep state, Rob. WTF. And who the hello do they think they are versus us regular folks? Great coverage, Rob. And I'm angrier than I've ever been before. Yeah. Today was this judicial stuff is quite angering. And I was listening to MSNBC today, so you don't have to. And the way that they were talking about this and the way Jake Tapper was talking about it, they want like a constitutional confrontation. They're like, Trump hasn't rejected the courts yet, but he will, or he could, he might. And they're all just like constant, it's like a drumbeat. I'm like, these people are nuts. Absolutely nuts. Hey, what's up? Deluxe Knight says, thank you, Deluxe Knight. Says, we have constantly been hearing the Democrats complaining about Elon having access to our personal info. We've already forgotten the Social Security office was hacked like 4 to 5 months ago while Biden was still in power. Christopher Wray told us that the Chinese were in our telecoms, like they're listening to everything you're doing. Our personal info is already leaked out there. So who actually cares about Elon at this point? And what's he going to do? Like, what? I don't understand what they're even upset about. Like it's a conflict of interest or something. Well, he has private contracts with them. Oh, okay. He competes and bids for those. Do you think he's going to like target his enemies or like go after Bezos or something? What do you think? What is your concern? Can anyone else launch stuff into outer space? No, that's why they have a contract with him. Our personal info is already leaked. Great job, Rob. Once again, keep up the hard work and don't let up on the throttle. We're not going to, Deluxe Night. I'm actually more fired up than I think I've been recently. Definitely since before the election. It's like these people are such cowards. Stop trying to control the executive branch. These judges know better. They're just Democrat hacks. Villa Plot, what's up? Please play Dana Bash saying Harry Balls again. Okay, we can oblige on that one. No doubt about that. Here it is. Here's Dana.
The disruptor in chief, Elon Musk, who apparently has adopted the alias, at least he changed his social media handle to Harry Balls, tweeted this morning, democracy in America is being destroyed by judicial coup. An activist judge is not a real to Harry Balls. Tweeted this to Harry Balls.
Yep, there it is, Dana. That's what we got from Dana Bash. Harry Balls Dana. Wow. All right, what's up, Glocky? Says, impeach them. Make them spend money on lawyers. Make them have to turn over their bank information. Comms. The process is the punishment. No one is above the law. If you're innocent, you have nothing to worry about. The usual talking points, blah, blah, blah. Deluxe Knight, does anyone know if treason is still punishable by death? Yeah, I think it is. Or is that something that they don't want to punish anymore? They don't really charge people with treason a lot. They definitely have. And I don't think anybody, I don't know about the death penalty applied to that, but yeah, the death penalty's back in season, baby. So I'm not saying that we should advocate for that. I'm generally opposed to the death penalty, but I'm also opposed to treason. Hey, Object Class Keeter says, Dem saying things are not legal is a non-starter. The real question is it legal? If it's not illegal, then you can do it. If it's a problem, then you write a new law. Well, the Democrats are not a good baseline for following the law as a general rule anyways. This old guy's here says, let's be real here. The government has an acronym for waste, fraud, and abuse. It's called WFA. Isn't that an acknowledgement that there might be a crap pot full of WFA in our daily operations? Just asking for a friend. Yeah, I think it's a pretty good hint. And it's funny, like they think they did something because they categorized it. They're like, well, let's just put a label on it. Let's just label it waste, fraud, and abuse. Should we do anything about it? No. But we know it's there. We'll get to it. Crash. In regards to the current lawfare, we are dealing with a new set of circumstances. These TROs are just the first shots of a nasty, mean, and ugly war Wait until the summer arrives and the real conflict in the streets rears its ugly head. And I also believe that they're trying to create an impeachment trap by which Trump violates one of these orders, even unintentionally, and they say he broke the law, or they need an investigation, or they need a special counsel to go, Trump violated a court order, some crap like that, right? So just get ready. The Lux Knight says, between my brother and I on the 2023 tax filing, we personally covered the transgender comic book. That by itself makes us turn red with veins popping out of our foreheads. Yeah, thanks you guys for that comic book. I'm sure it's going to, save lives or whatever. Thanks for that. Yeah. I don't know what I paid for, but I paid for a bunch of garbage. I might have paid for that transgender dance recital in Ireland. I don't know. Maybe. I didn't even get to see it. Thankfully, though. Londo says, might have paid not to see it. Londo, tip in the name of Knox Bierman. Well done, my lady. Well done. Shout out to Knox. Knox, you're awesome. And thanks for supporting Fred. One old guy's opinions says shrewd compliance. That's pretty good. Oh, what about tactical compliance? Tactical compliance. You just keyed me off on that. Did anybody say that yet? Tactical compliance. I think that's what I'm looking for. How about compliance while waiting to strike? I think tactical. Lillian M. Welcome to supporter. Welcome to supporter, Lillian. I'm very happy with that. Says, Rob, assiduous is a good match. So assiduous compliance. Assiduous compliance. Also not bad. Got to look up assiduous again. Hey, Lillian, thank you for becoming a supporter. Sliding Edge says, inquire not lest you suffer. Inquire not lest you suffer. LOL. From Sliding Edge. Yeah, don't ask questions you don't want to know the answer to. One old guy's opinions says shrewd. Shrewd compliance, also not bad. Marked by clever, discerning awareness and hard-headed acumen, common sense, given to widely and artful ways or dealing. Yeah, compliance, shrewd compliance. Shrewd compliance misspelled it. Sorry, cell phone is messing up. Shrewd. Shrewd keyed me off on tactical. I think tactical's right. Can the DOJ from Pinochet's helicopter tours the best helicopters you've ever seen? Can the DOJ just ice out the judges? Yeah, they could. I mean, can the judge just stack the federal courts? If he had Congress, right? If Congress expanded the courts, then he could stack them. If there were a bunch of resignations or impeachments or something, then he could stack them. But they're not open. I think senators have a say, though. I just flood compromised courts with tons of judges and put the corrupt ones on ice. Yeah? Well, he will definitely do that. Yeah, he will definitely be trying to reshape the judiciary. But, if the DOJ just by ice out, I don't think you mean take out. I think I refer to it as ignore them, right? Just kind of not. The judges say, you broke the law. He says, no, I didn't. I'm not going to arrest myself. I run the DOJ, so get bent kind of thing. Yeah, but then we start to run into constitutional, crisis territory. And I don't want Trump to be the instigator of that, right? I'd rather the courts be the bad guys. And the courts are being the bad guys. Trump is being 100% good guy right here. And you might, get irritated by that and say, F the courts, F this, let's keep the momentum going. We got plenty of time. We're not even a month into this thing. So he's saying, yeah, I'm being the good guy, complying. I don't know why the judges would do this, but they're doing it. And we just want to get rid of the fraud, waste, and abuse. And by the time he gets to the Supreme Court, his record is going to be very clear on that. Stephen Mosher says, expand SCOTUS and just add a bunch more conservative judges while we're here. They would do it if they were there. Larry, what's up? Says, thank you, Knox. Larry865 says, thank you, Knox. You made my day a true servant. Knox, you're amazing. Thank you, Larry, for shouting out Knox. Here's The Simpsons. Say the line. Harry Balls. Yeah! From The Simpsons. ELZ says, right, Rob. A great old saying is still applicable. Give a judge enough rope and they'll hang themselves if you do that. Right? And that's what they're doing. Okay, judge. Yep, you have all the power in the world. Injunction, injunction, injunction. Fine, we'll comply. It's tactical compliance. They're complying to gain a tactical advantage. The Hook. APL did say in the press conference that the JFK single shooter narrative is false. Are they going to admit that it was the driver or can't wait? Yeah, I didn't watch the whole thing. I just saw whatever was scrolling on X, and I thought it was going to be something more than that today. But all right, whatever. Rob, give us more winning. President Trump, we're not tired of winning yet. Not even a bit. Knox says, now that Elon Musk has my number, maybe he'll call. Yeah, he's got all our numbers now, right? So you're going to call. Hey, what's going on? It's Elon, Knox. You want to go to Mars? Hell yeah, Elon, I'm on my way. One old guy says, that was a mouthful of Elon's new Harry Balls handle for Dana Bash. Don't you think so? It was. It was hard for her to get it out of her mouth. Yeah, that's pretty funny, one old guy. Hey, sweet! This is great news, my friends. Prayers are working. Sweet Potato was in the hospital. She had a really bad case of sepsis that had developed from, I think, pneumonia, something. Didn't work out good there, but she's home. I'm officially home. Thank you for all your prayers. It's going to be a long road to recovery, but I'm alive. If my oxygen dips below 90 or I get a fever, I got to go back. But so far, so good. Hour by hour, I get to finally see my girl. She's got little babies, 2 little baby girls. They said 6 weeks until I'm back to normal. So that's pretty good considering how serious things got. And Sweet sent us a message that things were not good, not good. So Sweet, tremendous news. Thank God for sending healing energy. Thank God for your tremendous team in the hospital. And we're going to continue to be here, Sweet, because you're not done yet. We're going to see you back 100%, and you're going to be tap dancing in no time. It's going to be great. Will Crump says, SDNY judge threatens Trump with contempt for not releasing funds that were frozen. Is there any truth to this? I think that's what Trump is appealing on, right? So we read that yesterday, and the judge issued a secondary order saying you're not complying, and that the next step would be, there could be serious repercussions to this. And so Trump filed that appeal. We read that at the start of the show, saying this is ridiculous. Spuds, what's up, Spuds? In the house. Bringing in one new membo called Weebenhad. New membo, courtesy of Spuds. Hey, potentially criminal Sean was in the house. My friends, shout out to Sean. He's right next door on YouTube and everywhere. Potentially criminal. You can't really see this, but they just joined us. What's up, potentially criminal friends? Good to see you guys. Thanks for stopping by the show. And my friends, I suggest you subscribe to his channel and follow his work because he's a brilliant lawyer. Liz! Oh my goodness, Liz, what a nice dono. Thank you for this. Really generous of you. We appreciate it. Yeah, chat's even saying thank you. Says, just because you are fantastic. Thank you, Liz. I really appreciate that a lot. You guys, I'm so appreciative of you. Thank you for being here. Thanks for supporting our work. Thanks for the fun. Thanks for helping us solve these word problems together. It's just a lot of fun. So thank you for sending those in. Let's go say hello to our friends on X. Before we wrap it up on the day, we have some great comments here. What's going on? Hey, Barb had some good suggestions. Here we go. Zealous compliance, Uber compliance, lampoon level compliance, outrageous compliance, extreme ninja compliance. Yes, I'm a walking thesaurus. I like all of them. Hey, B Torn, what's going on? Having some difficulties on YouTube, it sounds like. B Torn also submitted his whistleblower account. He's blowing the whistle on wasteful spending from Senate Democrats. Here's his complaint. Waste of taxpayer money, waste, fraud, and abuse. All true. Hey, Fred, look at this. So Fred Petamonte says, thank you, Nancy. This is Knox Bierman. Thank you to Knox Bierman in the house. Look at that pup. Knox. Knox is our savior of our furry friends. Knox does a lot of work for our furry best friends of all stripes. Knox, we love you. Thank you, Knox, for that. And so does little boy Johnny. Hey, Dave says, I recommend that the president point you and Robert Barnes to head a review of the federal judges, then provide recommendations. If I'm called to serve, man, that'd be a lot of fun. I already have a list here. I already started them. We can start with the ones we covered today. Danny McWilliams says, so they can't beat Trump, so they call the lawyers. Goes on for years. Yeah. And hey, Rusty Bones says, try malicious obedience. Malicious obedience is another way. The thing with the malicious is it kind of feels like it's criminal or bad. Trump's not doing that at all. It's just tactical. It's like tactical over-compliance is what it is. Great show. Thank you, Tiba Rama in the house. Minnie Tika sharing the Rumble link. Virginia Mary saying thank you. Great to see you, Virginia Mary. It's been a while. Yeah, it's good to see you here. It's been a while. I haven't seen you in a while. On X, we lost our blue check mark because I changed my profile picture over there. And that's why it changed. Hey, Brad, said Brad Tard, listening on Rumble, enjoying the show. Thank you, Brad. Mr. Yorkie says, Rob, I started listening to your podcast 8 months ago. Your explanations of the law has made it easy for this blue-collar worker to understand just how much the legacy media lies. When I tell others what is really happening, they're dumbfounded. Keep it up. Yeah. Me too, Mr. Yorkie. Thank you, man. Thank you for listening. Thank you for telling others about it. This is what this is like what we're doing here. This is the purpose, is to help spread the truth of what's really happening. And so those comments are just awesome. Donna, thank you, Donna. Extremely informative. I can't thank that enough. Thank you for explaining this mess. You're very much appreciated. Thank you, Donna. And we're liking those comments over there on X. My friends, those came in on X. Really grateful for those. You can follow us over there. Here's our new profile picture. We put it on YouTube too. And our new background. This is all courtesy of our friends at personalbrand.com. Awesome dudes. What's up, Jonathan? What's up to Michael and Natalie over there? Go to personalbrand.com, and she has a podcast too. Spiritual Girl in a Material World. They helped us with all of this. I was trying to think of what that podcast was called. Great podcast. Check it out. So, of course, Personal Brand, our friends, they did that. Personalbrand.com for us. We love them. Sharpie Guy says, I hang out and wait for you, Rob, every day. Sharpie Guy, this is the funniest thing. I do the same thing for you. I honestly can't get enough of your content. Thank you sincerely. And Sharpie Guy, thank you for that, man. Thank you for that. I really appreciate you being here. And I can't wait to spend the time with you either. I really love it. I look forward to the show every day. I'm like, oh man, I can't wait to see what you guys think about all this. It's great. So we're having fun. Thank you, Sharpie Guy. Thanks for supporting us. And Tony Hay Munkett says, what's your favorite video game? Mine is Half-Life 2. Minus Half-Life 2. Oh, that's a good question. I mean, like, probably favorite video game of all time is probably like Super Metroid. I think I love that game. I probably put more hours into that game than any other game. And I'll still play that game. I still love Super Metroid. Lately, if I'm playing something, it's been Factorio, which I like. I like Factorio a lot. That game's pretty fun. I got the new space update, and I'm on like 2 of the other planets. You guys haven't played that one, so it's like kind of nuts, that game. But I got that one going, and then I started playing some chess again. I'm not very good at it, but I started to play again, and I'm playing against the bots right now, so I'm trying to have some fun with that. It's pretty fun. Chess is pretty fun, especially when you're not very good at it. Tony Hay Muckets, thank you for that. And Pinochet says, JFK was shot 3 times, once in the back, throat, and right temple. The small particles were on the x-rays, which multiple doctors wrote books about on best evidence, for example. We've known this for years. Yeah, I don't know the details, but I do know that we don't know the truth about that. And the fact that our government has records about the assassination of our own president by somebody is not disclosed to us. How can you have a democracy or a country when you don't even know what is happening? And they're shooting your presidents and blowing their brains out. Can't. Not good. All right. So, my friends, we will leave it there on the day. It has been a beautiful stream and a beautiful afternoon. Thank you so much for these amazing donos. Thanks for being membos. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for sharing the channel with someone who hasn't come and joined us yet. We would love, of course, to see them. But we are going to leave it there on the day. We're heading over to Locals. We're going to debrief for a little bit, hang out at the after party. We'd love to see you there. We want to thank our amazing mods who mod the fort down for us, clip the donos, and make things very nice and fun. Our friends, Donut Mind Me, K-Bean, Playin' Hooky, Dog Digger, Jan Eck, and Carrie B in the house, modding the fort down for us, keeping things oh so nice and beautiful and orderly in the house. My friends, that is going to be it for us on the day. Of course, we're coming back tomorrow and we're going to get into it again. And in order to do that appropriately, we're going to need to see you right back here so that together with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.